What's up, Ironman fans? Here the video you haven't been waiting for so long, right? In this part we will try to build a new hydrogen reactor for Ironman suit, the one we designed so easily in the previous video. By the way, if you haven't watched the previous video, it's probably a good idea to check it out, so you can better understand what we're doing today and why. Because right now we're going to jump straight into the making a new model. Drop your likes and comments below the video. Links to my PDF instructions, guides and blueprints are also below the video. Let's go! To start, we'll need some stainless steel for electrolyzer and some aluminum and copper for the radiator. Check the prices for new metal in a store and realize that once again, maybe it's better to use some scraps.
Я еще раз посмотрел ссылку на Озоне, по-моему, надо поставить. Это правда, если их погладить, они цвет меняют?
I think we should lead with that next time. In fact, at the nearest scrapyard I found everything I need for a new electrolyzer almost for free, except for sheet metal. There were some suitable sheets, but they're all bent and scratched, which would definitely affect the sealing later on. But on the way back to garage, a brilliant idea came to me.
Я думаю, я просто распылю старый электролизер и все. Потому что так будет проще и дешевле, и уже быстрее, мне кажется. Я извиняюсь. Автоботы вон видели, да?
So, after digging around a bit at the scrapyard and decided to go with some technical cannibalization of the previous model, I managed to get almost all necessary materials. By the way, you can see here what happens to an electrolyzer after dozens of hours of operation. That's right, nothing happens to it as long as you design it properly. Usually I cut all that flat parts for electrolyzer using a laser in a nitrogen atmosphere, so I can quickly get smooth parts without any oxygen scale on the edges. But since today we have a special case, one that doesn't even meet the minimum order requirement at a laser cutting center, we'll have to fall back on good old garage DIY. That means making it with our own hands. First, we'll make the most critical part, the body walls, which will have to withstand the greatest mechanical, thermal and chemical stress. Back when I used to make similar parts, I would typically use an angle grinder to cut a polygon and then painfully turn it into a circle by grinding off the corners on a sander. Of course, that process was long, noisy and dirty, and most importantly, the edges of the part would still end up uneven. Once I managed to get my own lathe, making these parts became possible on that machine. Of course, without a special backing plate, you can't secure such a part in the chuck. So, before manufacturing the actual parts, you first need to manufacture a jig out of steel, duralumin or at least fluoroplastic, which also wasn't particularly last or cheap. In fact, that's one of the main problems when creating the first prototypes. To make the part you need, which is often only required as a single piece, you first have to make the parts to make that part. This is exactly the problem that 3D scanners and 3D printers solve, helping save time and money on prototyping. What especially impressive are modern 3D printers that can print strong heat-resistant parts from ABS plastic, and what's even better, they do it quickly. For example, now you can model and print the necessary jig during just 1 hour lunch break. In this case, we print a backing plate from ABS plastic, securely attach our plate to it, and then mount the backing plate in the last chuck. Turn the polygon, and after just 5 minutes of flat work we get a perfectly round part. After it we can manufacture the inner plates of the electrolyzer using the exact same method. First we cut out polygons, then we turn them to obtain identical perfectly smooth discs. And yes, answering the question in the comments in advance, in this model the inner plates do not have electrical terminals like in my other electrolyzers, because only the outer plates will be electrically connected to the power supply using the screws in the walls. These electrical connections constantly raise questions among those who are starting to build their own models. How many terminals per section should I make? How do I correctly calculate the minimum cross-section to avoid melting of the gaskets, and so on? Just a reminder, these technical questions, as well as all other aspects of designing and building your own electrolyzers, I've described in detail in my new book that is now available with the links below. Thank you for reading it. If you notice, I start marking the parts and all necessary technical holes the old-fashioned way, out of habit, using a compass and protractor. But then I remembered again that I have a 3D printer, so I quickly modeled and printed some templates for marking. After making the metal parts of the electrolyzer, we move on to the insulators. In addition to the gaskets made of chemical and temperature-resistant rubber, which are used in all previous models, I decided to add a special spacer that will keep the gaskets from being squeezed out under the increased pressure. In the hydrogen booster of the pit bike, which also operates at pretty high pressure, the role of such a spacer was played by a structural epoxy powder, which wasn't a great idea even at the time of manufacturing, to say nothing about testing. Not only does an electrolyzer sealed that way end up heavy and non-serviceable, but when the pressure rises about 10 atmospheres, the epoxy cracks and inevitably starts leaking. But back then I was limited by the technologies of my time. How do we make such parts now? Let's say it all together. We 3D printed. Just please don't start writing in the comments again that once a 3D printer appears in the garage it's no longer a real DIY channel. It absolutely is. It's not that simple here either. You still need to know how to 3D print properly, and the very first list you have to learn basic 3D modeling and also account for tolerance, fits and shrinkage rate of each filament to make sure that the parts fits together well. And you also need to understand the filaments themselves. For example, for our spacer we could use regular ABS plastic, but there is a chance that with possible contact with alkali electrolyte, as well as under the increased pressure and temperature, ABS might not hold up. So for this it's better not to use regular ABS, but a special polypropylene filament reinforced with fiberglass. In addition to high chemical and temperature resistance, it's also extremely abrasive, unfortunately, which means you can't print with a standard brass nozzle. You'll need to install a carbide nozzle with a larger diameter, because the glass fibers will get stuck in a standard size nozzle. Why am I saying all this? To point out that 3D printing isn't that simple too. So I'll keep insisting that using 3D printers in DIY projects doesn't devalue the meaning of the manual labor. On the contrary, it complements it. This high manufacturing precision and quality fit of the parts that allows us to achieve the level of sealing necessary for the entire energy system to operate. Once the main parts of the electrolyzer are made, we can do first assembly without silicon sealant for now, to make sure all the parts are made correctly and fit together well. After the test assembly of the electrolyzer, we move on to making the radiator, which in theory should quickly and effectively cool the reactor in case of overheating. I'll try not to overheat it like I did before, of course, but I know myself, so it's better to be safe than sorry. In case air cooling isn't enough, I also decided to add a liquid cooling circuit as well, which will kick in when the temperature sensor is triggered and pump antifreeze through the radiator. Some might say I'm being too serious with the cooling system, but I suppose that someone has never strapped a homemade hydrogen and oxygen generator with hot alkali under pressure to their own body. There is still some free space next to the radiator, so I decided to add a bit of electronics here. A redundant current fuse, a temperature sensor and a 3-axis gyroscope, so that the control system will shut off the electrolyte circulation line if the electrolyzer is in particularly unnatural position. I'll try not to do any backflips in the suit, but it's a good idea to finally start solving the problem of the electrolyzer only working properly in one vertical position. Right now I do first bench test of the new model, which I'll show you in the next episode, because you asked me to make the videos shorter and release them more often. As you can see, that's what I try to do now. Thank you very much to everyone who supports me right now on Patreon and YouTube membership. This video is possible only because of you. I've already spent on garage rent and supplies everything you sent last time, so feel free to send more. I'll try to release the next video as quickly as this one. All my books, 3D models and PDF instructions are available with the links below. Good luck with your own DIY projects and see you soon!